Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it. Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. We're back today with a donation deck list from Joey, who wanted to see a BANT Maverick list a little bit like the 2013 Reduke BANT decks, which is really cool. I'm a huge fan of the BANT color module, and I really like trying out decks with Mana Dorks and Daze. And I think that Daze does play a little bit into what Maverick's trying to achieve in Mana Denial. And yeah, really punish opponents who are trying to kind of curve out. It is a card that I think in a Noble Hierarch deck currently isn't something many people would expect. Infect hasn't seen too much play, and there aren't too many other decks that do play both Noble Hierarch and Daze, or even Birds of Paradise and Daze. So we obviously want to take advantage of Daze. Brainstorm's the other big one. And I think Brainstorm is quite nice for Maverick because it allows you to really reset your hand, which might be a pretty basic thing to say, but Maverick is a deck where you have to play with the cards you're dealt. You don't typically have cards like Brainstorm or Ponder to kind of allow you to find the right side of your deck. So if you draw Swords to Plowshares against Ant or Tess, then that's just bad luck. If you draw Collector Oof against Elves, that's just bad luck. But at least with Brainstorm, it gives you an out to that, which is really nice. And this deck doesn't just have fetches as ways of shuffling, but also has Green Sun Zenith, which is really nice. So I think if you wanted to level it up to include another way to shuffle, you could include a Stoneforge Mystic package, which I would say takes up 4 slots, 2 Stoneforge and 2 equipment. But for this sort of 1.0 version of the list, we just wanted to play some of the most powerful blue cards in the format, and a pretty basic Green Suns package and removal spell, or removal suite. The other card we've added in the main deck is Jace. This is kind of taking the place of Sylvan Library number 2, but it's just like a nice finisher. Obviously the Brainstorm effect is really nice. Bouncing Threats can be fantastic. Fate Sealing can be really nice as well to make sure we need to either have our opponent drawing a dead card or lining up what we want to Green Suns for, just being a little bit ready of what's to come. So that's pretty cool as well. We also have an Uro in the list, which I really like. Uro can be a little bit tough at times if you do want to keep cards for night in lands or creatures for Scavenging Ooze. But most of the time when you're escaping Uro or wanting to escape Uro, that's just going to be better than having sort of a big knight coming down or an ooze that can eat creatures later on. So we think that's okay. The list did have a basic island, but I think it's a little bit tough to play a basic island in this list. So we've actually gone up for a 3rd trop. So the mana base for Duels is 3 trops, 2 savannas, and then 1 tundra, and then just a basic forest and plains. I am playing Cradle in this list, and I wanted to include Cradle because we are still a creature-based deck. We have 18 creatures, which is pretty nice. And Cradle does allow us to just have those really fast starts where we can curve into something like a Questing Beast or another Reliquary really early, or even hold up Endurance off just 1 land, which is quite nice. Other than this column of blue cards, the deck is essentially a green-white list, which is quite nice because it means the deck's hopefully going to be pretty consistent. And I think that's a real appeal of the deck, of being sort of a green-white deck with a splash of blue, not so much a BANT deck that relies on all 3 colors. To the board, we have 2 Flusterstorms, which is the only blue card in the sideboard. 2 Carpets. I chose Carpet in this case over Choke because, of course, Choke also hits us. And I think Carpet against decks like Blue-Red Delver is quite hard to beat if not dealt with on the stack, which is really nice. Gaddock Teeg is here for combo hate in the sideboard. just as a Green Suns target. I still think it's just too good not to have in the deck, but it is getting tougher to really understand what is the purpose of Gaddock Teeg. I can't just say it's in the sideboard for combo, but what sort of combo decks am I looking out for where Gaddock Teeg really shuts them down? It does hit things like Tendrils, Adnors, Past in Flames, Empty the Warrens, etc. But I think those decks right now have a lot of answers for Teeg. Miracles isn't really the Miracles deck it used to be, where Gaddock Teeg kind of shined. So I wouldn't probably even bring it in against other BANT decks, unless I really wanted to shut down things like their own Prismatic Endings, Supreme Verdict perhaps Terminus in the 75, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Force of Will obviously being turned off is nice, but I would never bring in Teeg against the deck just to turn off Force of Will. But definitely something to think about. It's 2022. I'll leave it at that. Surgical and Endurance as a nice kind of mix between Graveyard Hate and just Endurance being an all-round great threat. Obviously fantastic against Delver decks. I like it against Control decks as well. Just a way to keep their graveyard down if they are playing Uro. And just as a 3-4 flash threat is pretty nice. Blast Zone is a way for BANT to deal with go-wide strategies. We don't have Plague Engineer. We don't have red sweepers from punishing. So I think Blast Zone here is a really nice one. We originally played around with 2 Engineered Explosives in the sideboard, but I really like that Blast Zone allows us to tutor for a removal spell that can hopefully trade for multiple permanents. So EE, of course, is nice because it's flexible. It can kill constructs, which is pretty huge. Blast Zone cannot. But I think the ability to be able to tutor for Blast Zone directly through Knight of the Reliquary and in a way through Green Suns, because we can Green Suns for Knight, I think Blast Zone is pretty nice. So for decks like Elves, D&T, having access to that, and also just allowing Knight to get a kind of different dimension added to it as well post-board in finding removal is quite nice. 2 parts. Murktide Regent, any Delver deck, parts are coming in. Again, the go-wide strategies. Even Elves, I much rather my opponent have a basic than an Elf, because usually the Elf is much more of a resource for them than a basic. Knight of Autumn, Green Sun's target, and just all-round Swiss Army Knight. And then Force of Vigor for the really fast aggressive decks like 8 cast, and also great against decks like Lands, Death and Taxes that yield a mix of enchantments and artifacts that are quite powerful, and we do want to hit early on. So this is kind of phase 1 of BANT. There are a lot of cards that you can fit into a BANT deck. I think when you think of BANT straight away, from a creature perspective, you think of Uro. From a I can't even say it. Perspective, thank you. There we go. I think Daze, some people wouldn't think of. This deck isn't running Thalia, which is a big one. So Daze in game 1 is really just our main combo hate. Outside of Collector Oof or Scavenging Ooze against some sort of combo decks. Daze is really there as the taxer. So that's definitely an interesting one as well. I was thinking about putting Thalia in the sideboard for the matchups where I want her, but it was hard to find. And it's always tough when you're bringing in Thalia against the deck she's good against, because typically your opponent's also bringing in removal. So a little bit muted in power there. But yeah, I think this is a nice start to seeing where BANT can be in 2022 for Maverick. So we'll see how it goes. We'll run it through a league, and then we'll make some adjustments and run it through a stream. So a huge thank you again to Joe for sending through the list. And a big thank you to my sponsors, Card Hoarder and MTG Mate, who sponsor the channel and allow me to get these cards. So a huge thank you. Let me know if you have any comments. If you would change anything, have any recommendations, more than happy to hear it. But until then, we'll see you in round 1. Cheers. Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. We are on the draw, for game 1 against Raced. And I think this hand is okay. We can go for basics early on. We have acceleration, we have some combo hate and endurance or Delver hate, which is fantastic. Against a Lightning Bolt deck, this Knight is coming down as a 4/4. Pretty happy to keep this. Saga. Okay. Mox. Okay, some sort of mid-range deck. Most likely looking at lands here, but you never know. Wasteland here would be pretty nice, but they could have something like Crop Rotation open. Pretty happy to use the Misty here to get a basic forest because the Windswept Heath can get a plains. So I think Knight here is going to be a pretty fantastic card. I also don't think Endurance isn't the worst either. Okay. Also using a new OBS. So if you guys have any comments on the stream or recording in this case, definitely let me know. Always looking to improve. I think for the recordings, it's best to have the display up of the cards I'm talking about, whether it's Noble Hierarch or Urza's Saga. Another Mox here is quite nice because it builds up these Saga tokens to be pretty big. Questing Beast is nice. I think again we're just going to fetch for a basic and play this Knight as a 4/4. There is a world where it's better to play Cradle and keep a fetch land around in case they use the Saga to go and get Graveyard Hate to lower the Knight's power and toughness. So having the extra fetch to then build it up again is definitely relevant. So hopefully don't get too caught out there. Could also see my opponent just get really aggressive and get something like Shadow Spear. We do have Prismatic Ending as a nice way to deal with the artifacts that they grab, whether it's Shadow Spear or maybe Retrofit of Foundry. A few things my opponent can do to really give them a heads up with the ability to grind the game out. Green Suns off the top for something like Collector Oof is also pretty interesting. You'll take them off colored mana. They lose the Saga this turn as well, which is pretty huge. I think one aspect of this sort of matchup that I could probably improve on overall is knowing when it's best to Endurance my opponent in response to a Loam, or when to let the Loam resolve and then Endurance or Bojuka Bog. Usually I'm more towards taking out the cards that the Loam's targeting if I'm really worried about them, but otherwise it's yeah, it's tough because obviously if you take out the cards then it can just be a little bit tough to then deal with the Loam after a bunch of turns. And they're really going on the Saga plan here. Using the crop early on as well is really interesting. It means they lose the Saga. We're also going to yield here. But these constructs are big. And they have another crop. Wow. Wonder what they get. They could get Bojuka Bog if they don't want to get a Artifact Graveyard Hate piece off the Saga. They also don't really care about the Knight at this stage, which is kind of crazy to say because they will get an artifact off the Saga, which makes the construct that they're attacking with a 5/5, which is just bigger than the Knight anyway. So they kind of have a turn to deal with the Knight, but they probably don't want me to untap with the Knight, so This will be interesting. Tabernacle's an interesting card to get here. We have the Cradle in hand, which is really nice. So at worst case, we get to untap, pay for both creatures, and then just hold up Cradle Endurance. Needle most likely just naming Knight here, which isn't too bad. There is a world as well, where I want to actually trade the Knight here for the Construct if they do name. It's also one less creature to really worry about. They name Knight. Okay. Now these are 5/5s, of course. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Caracas is okay. Wasteland's probably the best draw here, because then I can Wasteland this Saga, making this Knight a 5/5, and no longer having to worry about another Saga coming down. I do want to pay for both of these. Another Endurance isn't that great. I don't mind playing Misty here just to go and fetch a Dryad Arbor so I can block a creature and then just let it go. Endurance is definitely interesting. It's a case of, am I happy to trade either an Endurance and a Knight for a Construct? And there is a world where I am, because next turn they have 2 mana to pay for the Constructs. Ah, no, the Tabernacle doesn't tap for mana. So next turn they pay for 2 Constructs, and then they don't have the extra mana, or they won't have the extra mana to actually make a Construct as well. So these will be 6/6s. I guess if they get Shadow Spear and then have a lander play, they can use 2 mana to equip the Shadow Spear and attack. I think it might just be a Cradle here that's best. Cradle into an Endurance. Keep the Dryad Arbor for a little bit longer. Dryad Arbor is nice because it means the Misty essentially puts 2 lands in the graveyard to make the Knight a 6/6. Sure. Retrofitted Foundry not great here if they are playing it because of the Tabernacle. So I assume they have Shadow Spear. Pyrite Spellbomb, interesting. Okay. Map? Sure. It looks like what they're trying to achieve is map for Bog, or at least Spellbomb Knight, and then map for Bog to turn this into a 2/2, and then save-based actions will kill it, so not too unhappy to see that. They are 7/7s now, which is a little bit tough, but at least Endurance now does kill one with a double block. I probably will put these back in their deck as well, just in case I loam off the top. Let's have a quick think. My only thought is like, you know, there's 2 Sagas in the bin, there's probably 4 in the deck, so, you know, putting any of these back into the deck doesn't really turn on the map. They probably have those anyway, so... But this definitely doesn't feel great. They probably use a spell bomb here to finish off the endurance. They go after the Noble Hierarch. Now that's very interesting. I will use the Forest to pay for this. There's a world where the endurance taps for more mana. Okay. Now I probably just play... Do I want to keep the Misty? That's the big question. Can I go down to 5? Do I want to show the Trop? Probably not show the Trop. Tough one. The damage definitely adds up, so I think it's Trop, Endurance, and then double block the construct. This is where I'm pretty happy that this deck is most likely not playing Sajiri Step, because Sajiri Step would be quite good. Especially if they drew like maybe another target for the expedition map. There could be a world where they could win this turn. We also know they're playing Punishing Fire, I believe. So they do attack. We get to cast another Endurance. And this time I'm not going to do anything. I don't want to put the spell bomb back into their deck, so this will just be okay. No targets. And block like this. Nice. To deal with both of those sagas is really nice here. So it looks like they're going to use the map. Most likely just get another Urza's Saga. Yep. Okay. Which isn't too bad. We have a lot of draws here. So I'm going to tap down the Forest. Pay for this. Wasteland's perfect. We can hit the Saga here. They don't have colored mana up, so they can't crop. Loam. Okay, that's pretty good. That's a fantastic draw. They've also used the Caracas here, so we do have a little out here. Oh, that's nice as well. Interesting. So next turn they can cast the Loam to make sure the Outland Liberator doesn't flip. I think I just have to trade with the Saga here. So we can draw a card as well. Because of the Cradle, we can play Outland Liberator, and then we have 2 mana with the Cradle. Could also do it upkeep. If they have crop, then I'd rather just make them use the crop in their turn. Or do they get back a land? I think they did get back a land. No. Yeah, let's just see. Upkeep, float 2, hit Saga. They're going to float a mana. Okay. Is this Punishing Fire? Punishing Fire me, sure. I'll draw a card. That's pretty funny. We get to Daze the Loam, I guess. Maybe draw into like Scavenging Ooze, that'd be pretty sweet. Prismatic. Okay. Don't really need to use that right now. I think I'd rather get the Dryad Arbor online to turn on this Cradle a little bit more. Could take them off a Mox. I could also keep this for a construct down the line. I think I'm actually happy to take out a Mox here. Take out a Mox. They then have 2 mana Saga. I think I'm past the stage where this Pith Needle matters. The Knight is just going to be a good threat anyway. So close to lethal as well next turn. This Karakas will deal with the Questing Beast the following turn, but I feel like we can go end step Dryad Arbor. Cradle allows us to pay for the Tabernacle. I think it's worth getting Dryad Arbor here, even though it taxes us. Quite nice, I think. All right. Tight game. Tight game to say the least. This Questing Beast ties up the Karakas, so they kind of have 2 mana to play with. Potentially another mana if they are... to play a land first, but you know, there's a world where I can Daze the Loam and just, even if they have the Karakas up, they might not, they can't use the Karakas. They want a Karakas in my turn as well to make me pay for it with pay for Tabernacle. My opponent probably here thinking if they want a Loam or not. They take the draw. Okay. So land is nice for my opponent, and a second Saga is really nice, because now they get the ability to create a 3/3. And also Karakas back the beast. All right. Wasteland? Wasteland would be sweet. Swords. That's so close as well. Actually, that does it. So, nearly. They would go up to 5. It is very close. Because the swords is essentially like just letting the endurance get through. Because they have to block the endurance here and lose the constructs. There's no point swords in here. I'd rather keep the swords. This is where Stifle would actually be quite nice, but don't always get it. To be fair, I didn't really have to attack with the Dried Arbor, but this turns off like fetch lands and a few other little things. I could have replayed the Questing Beast, but I don't mind my position here. But I think there's definitely a different route there, where maybe not attacking with the Dried Arbor is worth it, even though the extra damage is there. Maybe it's worth holding back the Dried Arbor. Interesting. Oh, they have to use, yeah, they have to use this one to actually create the Saga token. That's interesting. Okay. Now I think we just Swords the Construct now before they get an Artifact or Enchantment to make it a 4/4. Because if we Swords here, they go up to 4, and then this is lethal. If I let them gain the extra life, they kind of gain a turn. Will be interesting to see what they get. Not too sure what's left in the deck. Cool game though. They get Shadow Spear. Okay. Get Ghost Quarter. Okay, that is an answer to the Dried Arbor, funnily enough. And we actually have both basics in play, so that Ghost Quarter is pretty much strip mine here. So here, I guess I just want to use probably still Cradle to make them use the Ghost Quarter on the Dried Arbor. Wasteland one time. Pretty good because it also takes us off the mana for Questing Beast. Knight is pretty nice though. That's a big creature. But next turn I think they get to equip the Shadow Spear as well. Nearly. But it might just not matter, which is nice. I guess if they go and get a Mox Diamond, they could potentially get the 2 mana, because they make a Mox here, but then they can't use the Karakas, so that's pretty interesting. I think we might have them locked, unless they have something up their hand that I just can't think of. They make a Construct. They get Mox. Maze of Ith, like crop into Maze of Ith could be a line here. But then Questing Beast beats that, and also Daze beats the spell. Alright, well now both these lands tap for mana. Alright. Swords is just lethal here. The gain 6, go to 7. And then we attack him with both. We also have days up for crop, so they can't crop into bog. Pretty nice for us. Nice. Really nice to get that game 1. Oof. Alright. Boarding against lands. I like the Force of Vigors. I like the Knight of Autumn. I like the Endurances. I like the Surgicals. 7 cards. Blast Zone's interesting, but probably not where I want to be. Jace is nice, even at bouncing constructs. And also just getting like a non-creature threat onto the board would be quite hard for them to deal with. I think Daze can definitely come out. Just not really where I want to be. Cracks and Cradle still seem fine. The mana base seems fine. Early mana accelerants are great. Swords are great, especially if they're bringing in anything like Elvish Reclaimer or Tireless Tracker. I like all the threats as well, all these creatures. I still think Questing Beast is pretty good, even though they have Karakas. Ramanap's great. Outland Liberator is just solid as just a 1-for-1. Scooz is great. Collector Oof is fine with Mox Diamonds. There's a world where Oof can actually just come out, but I don't mind it seeing the Urza Saga targets as well. A lot of those have activated abilities. Maybe I don't want the extra endurances. As good as endurance is, it's just a solid threat though that isn't hit by graveyard hate. Like Knight can just be a 2/2 for a while. Endurance can at least do a little bit more. I might bring in like 1 extra endurance. It could be Jace. It's tough. Jace, it could just be a game where like, are we getting to 4 mana? Are we getting to double blue? Can't find it anyway. Like, would you rather have 1 Jace against lands or 5 copies of endurance? I think I'd rather have the extra endurance. Endings are fantastic as well. I think because of these, I'm happy to trim on like 1 swords potentially, because the forces and the knights deal with saga tokens as well. I don't really want to hand with multiple swords. And then I think it might even be Brainstorm as like a trim, which sounds weird, but I think that like the deck lines up so well that I'm not going to be like, I don't have to brainstorm into what I need. The deck already is quite focused on these sort of decks anyway. So I don't mind just trimming on a Brainstorm. I really want all the mana accelerants, especially adding in these extra 3 drops that I want to be playing on turn 2. So I think this is okay. A little bit weird with the Brainstorm, but got to trim something, and I think the other cards are just better. Even Scrib Ranger allowing us to like save lands from Wasteland or have a flyer with Exalted that can get in. This is a pretty sweet hand. I'm going to keep this. Especially if it's a start with like a Mox Diamond and Saga like last turn. Then Force of Vigor is going to be really good, and probably just taking out the Liberator. But then also having the Endurance if we need it. Brainstorm's sweet. Obviously don't have a blue source and fetch land, but if this was a 6 without Brainstorm, I'd be happy to keep it. Very cool to play against this deck. I really enjoy lands and Legacy. I find the decks that I play have pretty interesting matchups against the deck. So, opponent goes to 6. Yav into Spellbomb. Sure. Really interesting that they started off with the Yavimaya. There is a world where they don't have another green source in hand. And actually, I'm going to fire off the Wasteland here. Pretty aggressive, but lands can really struggle if they don't have Mox Diamond starts with finding green mana. so I don't mind hitting the Yavimaya there. It also means they don't like have Maze of Ith or Tabernacle that can now turn into or tap for mana. So yeah, like this is more than fine. And I actually here don't mind just hitting both of these. So I can actually respond to the Urza's Saga chapter 1, so they don't have the mana to sacrifice the spell bomb. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit both of these. Getting rid of the Liberator. I like that Scribranger can save our lands from Wasteland and also allow us to replay the Savannah turn 3 for an extra green mana if we need it for the Endurance. But that's a 2 for 2 that I'm more than happy to allow. I'm going to play the Windswept Heath because I don't want the Savannah to get wastelanded. Bog us is more than fine. Now I can also hold up the Brainstorm, which is quite nice. I could do that now as well, if I want to try to find a Mana Dork. And I'm not really scared of Wasteland at this stage because of, you know, there are 4 cards and on Bojuka Bog that I'm pretty happy to lower my my Scribranger right now. So actually I'm going to Brainstorm because if we hit a Mana Dork, I just want to play it. We don't, but we find some pretty nice stuff. I'm going to put I'm going to put the Prismatic on top. There's a world where we just don't need it. Let's have a quick think. Is there a world where I want the extra land? So if my opponent untaps and wastelands me, I want to be able to draw into a 3rd land. So I think we'll go Savannah and then Prismatic on top. Yeah. Teeg is okay. This is going to be Loam. This is going to be okay. So this is kind of the situation that I was talking about before. Do we hit the Loam with Endurance here, or do we let them have the lands? I think that I don't want to 2-for myself with the Endurance, that I'm happy just to allow them to have these. They've already played a land for turn. And we know about the Prismatic ending on top, which I don't even think we need at this current time, so... the question is, do I want the land? And because they didn't wasteland us, it is no, so I'm just going to fetch here for a Savannah. And then untap and draw a random card. Wasteland's pretty good. I am going to hit the Loam here as well. I'm just going to get a Tundra, because that means we have double of all colors, which is quite nice. Although it is a land that can't be returned with Scribranger. So there is a world that I just get a 2nd Savannah here, because I don't really care about blue in this matchup. This also means the next turn we can play Knight and also wasteland the Saga. And now we can just 6. So turning off that Loam engine is really nice. So I feel like we're in a pretty nice position. The Endurance next turn can start attacking as well. They're not playing the Saga, which is really interesting. Maybe they're holding up their own Endurance, which I don't really care about at this stage. We have double sword as well. And being 3-4 and 3-4 doesn't really matter. Sure. I could sword this just to get it out of the way, then play Knight. My opponent could play Saga, then crop for Wasteland to Wasteland, but then we have the Knight online anyway, so I think here I actually am happy just to Swords this. They gain 3, they lose 3, and then we just play the Knight, and then we have the Knight as Wasteland anyway the following turn. So they play the Saga. They float green. Needle. I wonder if they name Wasteland or Knight here. Knight. Interesting. And now they crop? No. Canopy. Let's have a quick think. I will draw a card, because if I find a way to remove the needle, it does change how I want to attack this turn. I'm going to use this to hold up all colors. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. I am going to play that right now in case we draw into a fetch land or another wasteland. I'm also going to do it like this in case we draw Caracas, then I can return it. Green Suns, still pretty good. Map is cracked. I wonder if they just find their own wasteland here to save their Saga. That does, however, grow our Knight, which is pretty tough for them. Find another Saga. Okay. Yield until end step. Loam is online. Library. Okay. I think I like just Green Suns for Knight of Autumn here. It puts a creature in play and also takes out the Pithing Needle, which is quite nice. Could get Ramanap, get back Canopy, but I like Knight of Autumn here. Could also hit this Saga. They do have the Loam going, so I think I'd rather just hit the Needle and then use the Knight to hit this Saga once they tap out for a creature. Do they draw or do they loam? They draw. Interesting. Nice. Yeah, really hard for my opponent to get out of that. I mean, the Needle did do some work to hit the Knight, but Knight, just with its versatility of being both disruption and pressure, if Pithing Needle is turning off the disruption element, then the pressure element is just going to overtake you. Having the Uro in the bin is nice as well. It's just like a plan B that it's pretty nice. Like, I don't care about Uro. We have a board that's going to be beating this deck. So yeah, just a tough one for my opponent. Going to 6 isn't great. And then, you know, having that Force of Vigor on both your Pyrite Spellbomb to deal with any like early pesky creatures, and then your Saga is pretty tough. So nice way to start the league. We're 1-0. If you enjoyed this content, leave a comment. Let me know if you would have made any different moves. And if you like this content, consider subscribing, following. We'll see you in game 2. Cheers. Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. We're on the play, which is fantastic. Up against May 0024. Up against the Yorion deck. Which I don't mind this hand for. Especially if it's Death and Taxes, having the Collector Oof is quite nice. Also, Daze to protect the Oof is nice. Otherwise, just hitting your land drops and having a threat and endurance is quite nice. I'm pretty happy to keep this. Just going to lead on the Windswept Heath in case I really want to Daze turn 1. Something like a Mother of Runes would be a little bit rough, so happy to see how this works out. Windswept Heath, okay. I don't mind dazing this, because there's a world where the Dried Arbor allows them just to kind of play around it anyway. The question is, do I want to brainstorm here for the sake of brainstorming? There is a world where finding a turn 1 play is quite good and actually quite high as well. I don't think I do. It is tough. You don't want to brainstorm without really like having a good idea of what you want to find. And here it is a mana accelerant, but I feel like I'm okay with just allowing the natural hand to occur. And if we just draw into lands and then a fetch land, we can brainstorm away lands. The worst thing here would be like brainstorming and just seeing like non-fetching lands and just getting stuck. So I am just gonna pass over here. Wasteland's pretty nice. I'm just gonna play Trop here and hold up the Brainstorm. I could try to find Daze off the Brainstorm here, but I'm just going to allow this to resolve. Okay. Well, that's pretty nice. Okay. See if they want to go up to my mana here. They don't. They need the Wasteland. That's really interesting. They need the Wasteland for their own mana. Huh. Which makes me kind of want to play the Karakas here and hold up Endurance. I could also play my own Wasteland and hold up Endurance. I don't mind that. Yeah. I don't want to show the Karakas just yet. They're gonna ponder. Sure. Chose to not shuffle. They play an island. They pass. Pretty happy to get some pressure on board here. Nice. Ramanap. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna play this Ramanap right now. get back Windswept Heath. Attack with our endurance. Also just being really patient on this Brainstorm because I still don't know what I want to throw away. That's going to be okay. We kind of got our card off it anyway, so pretty happy with that trade. Could play the Noble here. To get an extra damage in with the Endurance, I don't mind that. Ice Fang's okay. So in response here, I'm going to Brainstorm and then Fetch, because I do want to make use of this Brainstorm. I think this Collector Oof is pretty dead. Nice. Okay. Let's put back Oof and the second Wasteland, which here just is not doing a whole lot. We can then Fetch. I'm just going to get a Tundra, because with this Wasteland in play, I want to have access to 2 colors of each of my colors. And I'm just going to Swords this Ice Fang in response. Nice. There is a world where like I don't care about Wasteland on my own stuff, that I just want to take them off this mana. But I think I'd rather untap and see what happens. I don't think I'm that scared of 5 mana, but you never know. Prismatic Ending, that's fine. I think we start with Uro. Stack the triggers like this so we can just put in the Karakas and return to hand. I think I'd rather that right now, especially seeing they don't have up removal for it. I'm going to play the Dried Arbor. They missed a land drop last turn, which is pretty huge. The question is, do I really care if the Karakas gets Wastelanded? I don't really think so. But there is a world as well where I want to like start green sunning for maybe Scavenging Ooze, so the extra Dried Arbor mana could be relevant. I'm going to hit their Wasteland. Seeing that they missed a land drop last turn, I think this is fine. Sure. And I think because of that, I should have actually thought about the Uro line. I also had cast Uro again, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if they just put Yorion into hand here. Another Abundant Growth, okay. It's actually a little bit annoying, because I was thinking of maybe Night of Autumn. I guess we can't Night of Autumn. Let's have a quick look again at the deck list. I don't mind starting off with Uro. Could also go for Scrib Ranger. Could also, in fact, just go for a... I kind of want to play Force Negation. That's the big card here. I think Uro is fine. Let's just have a good think. I don't mind going for Outland Liberator, because if it flips, the ability to hit these Abundant Growths is huge, and it looks like they do have Force Negation. Okay. Fetching straight away. Yorion to hand. Pass. Brainstorm. 2 mana up, 5 cards in hand. I think here I just want to go for Questing Beast and try to close out this game as soon as possible. And in that case, the question is, do I want to hold up Dryad Arbor to attack for 2, or do I want to hold up Brainstorm and Noble Hierarch? Holding up Brainstorm allows me to draw into Daze, which is kind of cool. Have I played a land for turn? What have I done this turn? Nothing. Okay, so I could actually start with Brainstorm, because then if we hit Daze or a land, we then know what to attack for. So that's kind of cool. And we hit neither. But we do have shuffle effects here, which is quite nice. Put on top. Put on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do the old shuffle. Nice. Questing Beast. Sword. Sure. Primetime's a pretty fantastic top deck. That's going to be really hard with Field, but I don't think it's online yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if they get another land. It actually is, yeah. Well, now we are in a bit of trouble. I guess we try to draw into swords for the Primetime. We don't hit it. Yeah. I don't think we get back from that, unfortunately. This is going to be an interesting one. I don't mind going down on 1 mana dork in case they do bring in something like Supreme Verdict. Oof is definitely not that great. I don't mind Daze on the play still. I like Night of Autumn as just a 2-for-1. Ramanap's okay. I think I can drop down on a Knight though. Carpets are interesting, but they have so many basics that I don't really think it's viable. I do like Blaststone actually. Blaststone hitting all their Abundant Growths is pretty cool. I do like Beast. I do like the Prismatic Endings. Even on something like a Sylvan Library, I'm a pretty big fan of that. I don't mind Fuster for the Counter Wars. Something like this seems okay. I still like the swords. Yeah. I think this is fine. Force is definitely interesting, but I think this is pretty good. Always hard to navigate with Daze. Yeah, I mean, turn 1 Green Suns, turn 2 Uro. With Scrib Ranger. Because we can respond to the trigger on the stack, put in Cradle, and then tap Cradle for 2 to get Scrib Ranger into play. Alright, Dryad Arbor. Oh, it's not going to work. There we go. Into Swords and Response, that also changes things. Wasteland, I'm going to put in the Cradle here. And then pass. That's pretty huge for us. That's really huge for us. You never get to Wasteland this deck. Not scared of crop rotation either, yeah. Pretty happy just to play out my hand here. Loam's fine. Green Suns. Huh. A lot of options. I don't mind Green Suns for Ramanap. Get back Wasteland. We know about the fetch lane though. I kind of want like a way to deal with the Loam, but also the Beater. I guess we can 3, 4, 5 Questing Beast and hold up Caracas. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to play the Caracas. Flips, which is pretty sweet. Could have endurance, but we have swords. Could have played a land, I think. Okay. Sure. Not great draws. They loam. This is where like a Brainstorm would be really powerful. I do want to keep the lands in hand for that. I could play one because we can put back 2, but I also don't want to show the Caracas just yet. Sadly, just a little bit too fair this game. Yeah. Come on, Questing Beast. Blast Zone. That's pretty good as well. It takes him off these 2 lands, or these 2 Abundant Growths, which is kind of cool. I think I'd rather wait to see what they do with their mana. Because I don't think taking them off the Abundant Growths right now is good enough. There's a world where they play something else that I just need to like pump up the Blast Zone for. So I think I'll keep it. And if they play the Yorion, then at least in response to the Yorion trigger we can Blast Zone. Feels like just green suns for 6, yeah. Two, three. I guess an exalted creature does it here, just in the air. Just kind of cool. I will Blast Zone. Huh. Yeah. I guess we could all... Yeah, I think... Yeah, it's best just to go for a flyer here because, like, Questing Beast doesn't do it anyway. Yes! Ah ha ha! Too good. Oof. That was close. I mean, like, you know, we are playing a deck that just has to play with what you draw, but that was a pretty average draw. So just to get there with a little Scrib and a little Dried Arbor, those are the wins that feel pretty good. Another quick check. I think on the draw I want to take out Daze. At least some amount. Maybe like keep 1. I do like Noble just to stay ahead a little bit. Endurance just to keep the damage going. I think I will bring in the Knight looking at their mana base, and also just like 1 Endurance. I guess Fluster's also quite nice looking at Green Suns. Yeah, something like this. I like having 1 Daze in the deck, just to know it's there. I mean, especially for a deck that wants to Green Suns for 6 at times, I feel like that's okay. This is a nice hand, I'll keep this. Turn 1 Acceleration, interaction with like Abundant Growth. They go for Trop, which is interesting. That makes me feel like they have Loam in hand, and they're not really too scared of being hit with Wasteland. Yeah, and there's the Loam, so nice little read, mate. Now this is an interesting setup. I don't really want to play out the Liberator without having a target, so I don't mind just holding up Scrib Ranger. Yeah. If they're like a Teferi deck as well, this might change how they want to do things. They don't Loam. We'll fetch. Kind of like getting Savannah here. 1, 2, untap, bring back. 3. Green Suns for 2. Interesting. This is fine. I'm just going to eat the Loam here as well. We also have Screws up here because we can untap the bird with Scrib, which is quite nice. Fire Spout. Rough. We don't have a way to play around that. Kind of like just holding up the Endurance here, to be honest. But they are getting towards mana that I don't want them to have. But now, like, landed to prime time's a big issue. A few things that are pretty tough here. That's fine. No blue mana at the moment. I feel like I might just need a fluster for birds. Oh, sorry, yeah. Noble's actually fine, and I should have done a pre-combat to get that extra damage in. Because, yeah, now Field's just going to take over the game, unfortunately. Okay. For some reason, I just thought Exalted would make it a 4-3, but that is a horrible trade, of course. Should have also held up the Savannah there, just to hold up swords and fluster. Yeah, Field here is going to be tough. Okay. Just making a 4-3? That's fine. Don't really want to use a sword on that because I want that for prime time. Jace. Mana are a little bit awkward here, but that's okay. Probably just want to pass here, to be fair. Oof, nice. Let's start with... I guess we just fluster. They could potentially get around that if they force and then pay for 1. So there's a world where I like want a Swords and Knight here to increase Fluster Storm. But then if I'm using the sword there, it's not a great trade. Huh. Guess we'll find out. Nice. It's a pretty big win. All right. Definitely use that. Can we find Wasteland? No. No great attacks either. I don't want to trade with both zombies. All right. Tough. Like, Jace isn't great here either. Well, we can try. Honestly, I wanted a Swords in my turn to play around like Hardcast Force. But now the Jace just dies. Yeah. Rough. Definitely a tough one. My mana denial strategy just wasn't there. Like, Wasteland in that game early on would have been fantastic. Maybe there was a play to save a Green Suns for a Knight and start going after their mana, but a BANT deck that hits a land drop every turn for 11 turns with a field plan is going to be tough to beat without Wasteland. I mean, that kind of felt a little bit like Solitaire, unfortunately. Just what we were doing didn't really line up well. Like, the Knight of Autumn hitting an Abundant Growth didn't really have an effect. The Outland Liberator didn't trade for anything. Screws hit alone, but by that stage they already had the lands back they needed to actually just hit mana every turn. So, a tough one. But, yeah, a very cool deck from them. So, hopefully we'll bounce back in Game 3. We'll see you then. Hey team, on the play against Rain. And not a great hand. A lot of mana, nothing to do with it. Kind of the opposite here. But I think it's going to be okay. I'm probably just going to bottom the... It's actually an interesting one. I think it's going to be the Knight. Because there's a world where I want Endurance for combo, and ramming up gets us back this Windswept Heath. So I'm going to keep this and bottom the Knight. We also have 3 Knights in the deck, plus Green Sun, so we have a high percentage of hitting those cards. I will just go for a Savannah here. I could go for Brainstorm, but I think I'm okay just hiding the blue for now. Not too sure what we're up against either. Caracas. Okay. Most likely Prismatic Ending. Okay, so not Death and Taxes. Interesting. Looks like a similar deck to the last one. Okay. I am going to Brainstorm here. We could draw into Days. We do, which is nice. I want the Wasteland. And then just to hold up the Endurance. So I don't mind... Put on... how do I want to do this? I think... Put... Yeah, these two on top. I also don't mind just Wasteland Pass here, instead of holding up our Endurance. There is a world where turn 1 I should lead on the bird instead of the Hierarch. Because Hierarch can attack, it is a little bit better. Happy just to trot past with Endurance up. I want to play the Ramen up the turn I can get back a land. Brainstorm's okay. I think my opponent is definitely thinking about Endurance. That's a pretty easy telegraph. I'm going to target them if it resolves, just to turn off like Snapcaster Mage. It's a pretty poor draw. Would have been really nice to be able to fetch for that later on. But we do have Brainstorm to put it back, so not the worst. Terminus, rough. Didn't really think about Terminus. Maybe I should have seen the mana base, but this looks to be just a blue-white deck, which is interesting. Okay. They are playing BANT. Can just yield. This is definitely gonna be a tough one. BANT on BANT, but with cards like Terminus, they're going to be able to get a lot of advantage in this kind of, I guess, color mirror match. Swords to Plowshares, Teferi bounce, Jace bounce, Prismatic Ending, a lot of good answers tonight. And like, with a land in hand, we have to really start top decking pretty well, which is a little bit tough for a deck that doesn't really have manipulation. And obviously these two cards aren't great, so... I do want to see more from the deck, though. I'm not too sure how to sideboard yet. I assume they're playing Uro, but you never know. Especially with Sylvan Library, it's just really, really good. Speaking of... no land! That's really interesting, though. I am just going to pass not playing a land because I want to brainstorm these two away if we like brainstorm into 3 good cards. The Windswept Heath here also represents the Dried Arbor if they Terminus again. But this is where Carpet's really nice because it can be exchanged for Mana Dorks, which allows us to still have a turn 1 play that accelerates us and also is an accelerant that can't be hit by... Terminus or Sweepers, which is really nice. Prismatic Ending is a fantastic answer for it. So there is a world where you don't just play it on turn 1, you wait till they play an island and then get some value off it, but it is going to be tough. Opponent not holding up swords is... not holding up the planes is interesting here. Chose not to use. Nothing. Happy to fetch. I kind of hope they hardcast Force here. So I think we will just go after the Jace with we can't. I guess then we just go... Yeah, because we can only make 3 colors currently. Go after the library. And then at least Daze checks hardcast force, which is quite nice. Here's Uro, which isn't too bad. We do have Caracas and all 4 swords still in the deck, which is nice. But we are also drawing 1 card a turn. Our opponent just drew 5 in 1 turn, so you do the math. But here we go. Oh, I didn't mean to pass. Let's have a quick think. I don't mind just running out the clock a little bit more, just to see some more cards. They do have 7 cards in hand, so I don't see this Green Sun's resolving. Script Range is pretty funny because it allows us to block the Uro and kill the... No. I don't mind just going after their mana a little bit. I mean, they missed a few land drops, which is pretty interesting. Swords. Alright. Blue deck. I think it's going to be pretty similar to last time, but I like the Gaddock Teeg. I also like the Surgicals for Uro. The Carpets. I'm going to go down on 3 Mana Dorks and Cradle. Collector Oof. 1 Knight. I like Knight of Autumn. I don't mind Blast Zone. Swords are still relevant. Green Prismatic's still pretty relevant, especially with Sylvan Library. I don't mind going down to like just a few days. It is pretty interesting as well, especially on the play. Also allows us to kind of get under or back to basics, which is cool to get extra colors for like Prismatic Ending if we need to. I think Liberator is just worse than Knight of Autumn, but it's nice to have a 2-drop to go and get. I think because we're bringing in the Surgicals, I'm going to trim on Swords for Uro. If they bring in Mentors, they bring in Mentors. I'm just going to go down on a Daze as well. I think it's just a little bit too slow, and Screws isn't something I want to see until I have an actual target in the yard as well, so it's not just like a turn 2 play. Not the greatest either, but it's a double Daze hand, which is pretty funny. Can just buy us a bit of time. Put back the Dried Arbor. I don't mind that. And then we have Uro to kind of rebuild our hand. Opponent kept 7. Okay. That means we don't have to Daze a Sylvan Library, which is quite nice. Nothing. I kind of want to draw a land here, so I'm not going to fetch. I'm going to get a Tundra, because then I can hold up double Daze. Draw first. Carpet's pretty nice for next turn. This is fine. I only have the one Uro anyway. Knowing about the Dazes is a little bit tough, but it's something I'm okay with. Probably just want to wasteland that. Untap, play Night of Autumn. Taking them off white mana as well is quite nice. That's a really nice draw. Carpet's pretty free here. Sure. I think I just double Daze this. The Sylvan Library is just so huge here without any pressure on the field. And I have the Carpet anyway to use for mana, which is quite nice. And if they want to force, that's more than fine as well, yeah. Sure. But land into the Jace is a little bit scary. Especially if they just tick up themselves. Or even tick up us. Or tick down on the night. Just bounce it, yeah. Maybe that Daze was overkill. Make white. And Wasteland their green source. They have this. Maybe it's... Yeah, I think it is, because we have the carpet. We kind of want the extra mana. This is probably a matchup where I would like this second library over Jace, just because it's another turn to play and just a way to get card advantage, hopefully before they find an answer in something like Prismatic Ending. But again, now we're really behind. We're in that position where we just have 2 lands in hand and nothing else. And no great way to reach out to the Jace. That's a start. I think with the trigger on the stack I should have brainstormed, but I guess we'll make white mana. Okay. Can Green Suns for 3 here? I think that's okay. Yeah. I think it's just going to be an endurance target them. Just to turn off Snapcaster. I assume being like an old school build with Terminus would see Snapcaster in this list somewhere. There's a world where they also like tap out for Prismatic Ending and then we get to a chance where we can like Green Suns for Questing Beast to take out the Jace. That'd be pretty sweet. Probably have their own. Is it a waste to get like Noble Hierarch here to get Exalted through? I think it is. I think I'd rather Green Suns for Gaddock Teeg. That could make things awkward for my opponent. Tough. I'm going to Swords this. In response to both triggers, so they can't put in Karakas and return it. But unfortunately, I don't think I have too much fight left. Really relies on a solid top deck, but like Sylvan Library here is just so good with the Jace that not having like any sort of reach makes this really hard without Green Suns. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think it's just a concession. Which is tough. I don't like to concede, but just so far behind that... Maybe it came down to the double days, but it's tough because then my opponent can just play around days pretty easily knowing about it. That I think like just making them double days and then try to draw some cards off the library is what I want to do, because like it's turn 9 and I'm at 28 life, so like paying 8 is definitely something that I would easily consider. So I think that Sylvan Library was like what I saw as my way to get this game and just stay above the stay above the bar with card advantage, but it didn't happen. So we'll hopefully bounce back in the next one, and we'll see you there. Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. We're here for round 4 on the play against Denka. And a hand I actually don't mind, especially with the Brainstorm. We can put the Dried Arbor back, and Wasteland as well if it's not that great. Having the turn 1 days as well is quite nice, so... Happy to see how this one turns out. Delta Pass. Happy just to hold up Brainstorm with Fetch here. This is going to be fine. This looks like Doomsday. Okay. Put back Dried Arbor. Put back Forest. I don't mind Wasteland here and Green Suns for Noble Hierarch, so the following turn I can Ramanap and Wasteland again. I'm going to start with Green Suns. Okay. I'm going to Daze back. Opponent thinking about forcing, perhaps? Or a third Daze? Because this is really nice, because then we get to Wasteland this land, and also have the Noble Hierarch in play. Wow. They pitched a Ponder as well. So maybe this isn't Doomsday. Maybe it's more just like a mid-range kind of deck. I'm going to show the Caracas here. The nice thing about Green Suns is that it just represents creatures. So even though it got countered there, I didn't lose a Noble Hierarch. There's still just as many Noble Hierarchs still in the deck. Second Strix is okay. Hierarch. Alright. Deal with one Strix. Play Hierarch. Attack for 3. Then next turn we could potentially play Ramanap and get back Wasteland. Ritual. Wow, maybe this is Doomsday. Yeah, rough. Doomsday we don't have much game against either, so I don't like the outcome of this matchup, but we will see how it goes. You never know. See what's in the deck. I assume this is one of the versions with like main deck Baleful Strix and Murktide Regent, which has been seeing play. Yeah, Murktide Regent. This card, Malevolent Hermit, which is tough because like, do you take out? Do we now still take out cards like Swords to Plowshares or not? It's always a tough one. I do like the endurances. I still like the swords, I think. Could see where path is better. From like a... it's tough. I like the flusters, of course. I don't mind the carpets. Knight of Autumn to take out like a Baleful Strix. Noble and Bird. I'm going to go down to 2 swords. We do have like... I guess Oof is still relevant as well. Days is still relevant. Knights can probably be trimmed. Jace can be trimmed. Ending can be trimmed? It's tough because like Knight into Wasteland is pretty strong. I think because it's tough because like is Carpet really that good? Like do we have the time to like allow them to have that? Because like turn 1 Carpet is much worse on the play than turn 1 Matador because they can just go like Fetchland Pass or Swamp Pass. I think for that reason I'll probably not bother with the carpets. I'll keep this. Because of the dazes, I'm happy to start on Noble Hierarch. Chose to not shuffle. Interesting. Gonna play Oof. And pass. If they play a Strix here, I'm pretty happy to try to daze that. Just to keep it off the board. I want to get to a stage where I can hold up both Fluster and Endurance. So I just want to get the mana there, but this Strix is doing a lot of work. I think I might even like bait an attack with Noble Hierarch next turn. There's a world where I was supposed to like counter this Ponder as well, because it's probably the shuffle effect for the Brainstorm. They chose to shuffle. Wasteland's pretty good. I think I will start attacking with the Noble Hierarch. I feel like we're in an okay position here. Having Days with Fluster is quite nice. In case they have like Murktide and something else. Like even this I kind of like Flustering. They're really trying to dig for something. Yeah. I like that daze hits everything. That's why I don't want to daze it. Nice. But now I need just something a little bit more pressure. Second daze is pretty funny. Just really play a bit of a tempo plan. It's pretty good. I think I'm gonna discard. I think I will cast an endurance here. Turns off Murktide as well, which is a little bit relevant. I don't really want to daze the Murktide. I think now we just attack with both Oof and Endurance. Don't really care about the Strix, because then the following turn we can just start attacking. We kind of have a 2-turn clock in this Endurance, or at least a 3-turn clock. Interesting, they're just going to go now. I still think Daze is worth it, but in that situation I really got caught out by that Baleful Strix. It did buy them a lot of time, let's be fair. I think Uro can most likely come out for another Swords. I also don't mind dropping down on Daze. They discarded Doomsday there, which is interesting. That opens them up to like Surgical lines. I don't think Surgical is great against Doomsday though. It is okay with hand disruption, but otherwise it's not great. I think I want the Daze just because of how poor the matchup is. Like I just want to have some sort of interaction if I get a turn. That I could see like Ooze coming out. I think that's fair. Maybe like... Maybe just that Knight for that Wasteland kind of line. A very fair hand. The only real interaction here is Wasteland. I think there's better ones. I think there's a hand. I think on the draw I need a hand with something like Endurance even. Okay. The mana's really awkward though. I think we have to bottom the Cradle here. I guess we could bottom the Swords as well. We have like Liberator anyway for Baleful Strix. And then we actually have Green Suns for yeah. We have Green Suns for Scrib Ranger, which just blocks everything, which is quite nice. Just Ritual Doomsday. Dotsies. Okay. Interesting, they take Green Suns. Forest. I like Liberator Pass. Oh, sorry, Arbor Pass. That's fine. This does leave us open a little bit. We don't have a green card for the endurance. Well, that's pretty nice. I really want like a fetch land Flusterstorm, or like fetch land Flusterstorm green card would be perfect. One top, one bottom with the Preordain. Underground Sea. They know about Wasteland, so that's pretty interesting. No shuffle. All right. Rough. I'm gonna pay for this and put this on top. And then I'm just going to endurance right now. If they want to daze it, we have the Wasteland, which is nice. Interesting to Street Wraith there when you don't know what's on top. What are you digging for? You played a land. Chat, let me know. Why would you Street Wraith there? Do you just want to cycle it to find something else? Put a card in the graveyard? Maybe just try to find Doomsday? Or like you're one card off? Maybe that's it? Like one ritual and you can go off? No attacks. Okay. We know Prismatic Ending is there. Now we get 2 fresh cards. Nice. Brainstorm as well. Interesting. Put on top, pay for this. Fetch for Tundra. Attack with 1 endurance, I guess. pretty happy here just to hold up Brainstorm with Endurance. Float 2. I do want to play Endurance here just to even turn on this Cradle. I think that's relevant. I'm gonna force it, pitching days. Okay. I do want to get rid of that just now because of the extra 2 damage does add up. Okay. That does answer this, which is nice, so put on top but pay for this. And I can replay. Which doesn't do anything, but it just might make my opponent think like, oh, what do they have? What is this? Ritual. Sure. I assume with the mana here they can just get there. Which is tough. Maybe I was supposed to dig a little bit deeper with the Sylvan Library than Brainstorm. It's tough with just the one, like the mana just didn't really help. Tough as well with the basics. Like Wasteland them out isn't even an option here. I think I just have to hope that my opponent doesn't play around days. But with Cavern of Souls in the deck, I can only assume that this is most likely a win just here. Like, surely this does not work. Oh, they have no cards in hand? Is that right? No. What's happening here? Do days just work? Is this cards in hand? Oh my gosh. Oh, you love to see it. That's crazy. That is crazy. Wow. I thought we still had a third game. I totally forgot that that was the last game. What? Wow. We'll see you for game 5. Hey team, up against Alex West. And we're on the play, which is nice. Up against the Yorion deck. I'm gonna mulligan this. It really relies on the Brainstorms being good, otherwise it's not really doing anything, so I'm gonna mulligan. Sadly, just a no-lander, so not too much to say here. Alright, happy to keep this. Put back Collector Oof and a Mana Accelerant. This way we can fetch for a green source and then still have a fetch for Windswept Heath. I could see a world as well where it was better to keep the bird and drop the Tundra. Maybe that was the play. We'll find out. Alright. Opponent goes to 5 as well. In case this is D&T, I don't mind just going for a forest first up, but seeing that I have like 4 mana in hand, I'm actually happy just to go for Savannah. Noble Pass. Map. Okay, this is going to be D&T. So funnily enough, like Collector Oof would have been pretty nice. Swords is good. I'm going to start off with Brainstorm here because finding something like Sylvan Library would be huge. We don't, but we find a pretty cool hand. I'm going to put back... I'm going to put Sword on top. How do I want to do this? I kind of want to play out the Outland Liberator. I could also see a world where I just go Tundra, Prismatic on Expedition map, hold up Swords to Plowshares. I don't mind that. I kind of like, again, playing the Liberator out to actually have a target and open mana. So I think in that case we go put on top, put on top. Yes, let's go put on top and then put this on top. Nice. Land. Hit map. Because I really don't want them getting a Saga. And then just passing. Darksteel Citadel is very interesting. Chalice for 1. Rough. But we do have, of course, thankfully, Outland Liberator here to kind of clean things up. So I'm not going to attack. I guess I can attack here. Or I could also just hold up Outland Liberator and Swords to Plowshares. I kind of like that. I assume this is also going to be Yorion D&T, so... You never know. Like, this could be a kind of brew. Yeah, and it looks like it will. Nice. So this Infiltrator flipping is pretty huge. This gets through Chalice as well, which is quite nice. So I am going to keep that... yeah, this Liberator around, and I'm just going to keep that Swords on top. I guess I could attack here and trade with both of these. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, so I think we just 6 here. Allow this to flip. Which is pretty huge. They have 2 cards left. Yorion into hand. And that's going to be it. Yeah, they get a free attack here. That's going to be fine. I could get Dried Arbor here, but I think just having a Brainstorm online is better. Yeah. Okay. Get a free attack here, which is nice. Khan's pretty good, but I think right now I'm okay with it resolving. I can't really do anything anyway, so yes. Ticks down, which does mean that the this is going to be lethal next turn if we remove both of those, which is quite nice. Grafdigger's Cage, I don't really care about because we get to kill it anyway with Frenzy Trapper. There is just the question here of do I want to get Dried Arbor, and I still don't, so this is fine. But I will just try to kill this right now before they get the extra damage, and I will pay for it. And then I don't need to kill this right now because I get to kill it when I attack, which is just so good here. Ah, it doesn't because of that. Interesting. Okay. Probably should have thought about that, but that's okay. Yeah, then I definitely would have swords it last turn, so then I could play the knight this turn. A little bit rough. And I do want to kill the Khan here. I totally forgot that it flips back. That's the issue. They have a land, which is huge, because it means I can just play around days here. Yeah. Okay. No great attack, so just pass. There is a world where maybe it's better to keep open the Outland Liberator, but hopefully not. Hopefully playing the bird there was okay. So they're going to Inventor's Fair. I wonder if they just get like Needle, potentially. Would love to see them get a 2-mana spell, of course, because then we can daze it. They get Needle. Oh, but they don't play a land. Wow. Oh. That's huge. That's really big. Yeah, that's like really lucky there. All right, I like the Force of Vigors. I like the Blast Zone, the Knight. It's probably it. The Khan's interesting, so like Teeg is kind of relevant, but I think that's fine. I wonder how big Ooze is. I don't think Ooze is where I want to be here. Uro can most likely come out, but the life gain is definitely interesting. I like Days coming out on the draw. Just keeping in one. I think that's pretty good. Pretty nice hand, I'll keep this. Doesn't have a third mana, but I think that's going to be okay. Opponent down to 5. Plains pass. A mana dorky would be really nice, let's be honest. Okay. I could lead on the Trop just in case they want to play around Days, but I think just Forest here is okay. We haven't seen Wasteland, but I'd kind of hate to get Wasteland here. That's going to be okay. See if they have like an artifact to play as well, like a Chalice. Yeah. Now I'm pretty happy to take out that. But what do I want to trade them for? Another big thing here is that I didn't play Windswept Heath, which would allow me to untap, draw Wasteland, Wasteland the Saga, and then Prismatic Ending the Chalice. No, it wouldn't, because then the Chalice would actually counter the Prismatic Ending. I think here I'm just going to drop the Knight because we have multiples in the deck. These two cards we don't. And sadly, opponents just said GG, which is tough. I mean, from that sort of position, it is quite tough to get back in the deck. Second, I mean, we get to go like untap Liberator, untap Ramanap, which is really tough. So we do finish 3-2, which is quite nice, especially for a new deck. Where would I go from here? Let us create a new copy. And have a quick look. We'll go back to DeckTech. All right, so sideboard, I felt like everything had a little bit of play tonight, which is good. I think first up, the Jace. The Jace is tough because it's just it's a one of in a deck that we can't really find it other than Brainstorm. And the deck also didn't have too many 2-drops that we could get without wanting to have mana open. So things like Outland Liberator, Scavenging Ooze, Collector Ooze is obviously just a card that's only okay in some matchups. So I think going down on Jace and bringing in another library is just nice to make sure that we're really owning that early game, especially against BANT decks. Because Sylvan Library, although it can be hit by Prismatic Ending, we do have Days to protect it a little bit. Getting that down and just making them like have it or we draw 8 is pretty crucial for that matchup and for Maverick having a play in that. Let's actually start with the mana base. That's my little take on Jace. The mana base I thought was actually quite nice tonight. We didn't really have any problems. If anything, we drew at times just a few too many lands, but that's just magic. That's not like that's just magic. We have 23 lands, 1 is Dried Arbor, 1 is Cradle, 21 lands that produce mana straight away. Wastelands kind of don't, so I guess like 17. So I think the mana base is fine. I liked having 5 mana dorks. I could see a world where we drop and go down to 4. But, you know, all of these producing all the colors we need, like Noble Hierarch literally being at her best, producing BANT colors is really nice in this deck. I did like Swords, I did like Days. We did sort of discuss Force a little bit in the sideboard, but I don't think this deck has enough blue cards to support Force in the sideboard. So I think that Days does what I kind of want it to, but I kind of want Days to work a little bit better in this deck. Instead of just Daze You, I want to have like Daze You and then play like Thalia, which although is quite taxing in this deck with Daze, of course, I feel like Daze and Thalia work really well together because they make it harder for your opponent to pay for either tax, which in my mind is what I want to be doing with this deck. And I think I want to move towards a version with Thalia and with these mana dorks, because the mana dorks allow you to kind of play around your own Thalia tax, so you can go turn 1 Noble, turn 2 Thalia, hold up Daze, which is like exactly what I feel this deck wants to be doing, because you really want to be pressuring your opponent in the early game and then getting to a late game where they're kind of catching up and then dealing with your Thalias and maybe your Noble Hierarchs, and you've already got Knights in play, or you've got Endurance in play, or you're green sunning for a ton for another threat. So I would like to find it's just hard finding space for those 2 Thalias, and I think 2 is the nice kind of middle ground. I don't want the full 4, but again, in a Brainstorm version where you can get rid of them, having the full 4 and drawing multiples isn't as bad as the non-Brainstorm versions. So it's tough. I mean, Uro I thought was fine tonight. Gaining life was nice, getting the cards, a little bit of shenanigans with Caracas is always quite fun. 2 Endurance is really nice. I really love the full 4 Endurance in this deck. I think, like, as a side note, like, any Maverick player should be starting a Maverick deck with 4 Endurance in their 75 and then working out the other 71. I just think the card is that good and that flexible against a multitude of matchups that it's just insanely good at 3 mana. Questing Beast was fine. Ramanap was great. I think Ramanap was actually probably one of the better 3-drops in this league. The card advantage of getting lands back, making sure our mana was online. You know, the Wasteland lock was really nice. Is it crazy to go down on, like, I kind of feel like I just want to go 2 Brainstorms and then 2 Thalia. I don't think, like, this isn't, it's not a Brainstorm deck, but it has huge benefits of playing Brainstorm. And, you know, looking at cards that are just poor in some matchups, like your Ramanaps against like the blue-white control decks, like your Liberator against like an Elf deck with Collector Oof in the same boat. Scavenging Ooze can just be dead as well. So you have, you know, a few cards here. I guess Swords as well against some of the really fast combo decks. You have about 10 cards which can just be dead. Let's even include Caracas in that. I mean, Caracas is sometimes just a plains. These cards all have some fight in them. So I kind of feel like with these 11 cards, the Brainstorms are nice because you do have ways of putting them back in the deck and hopefully not seeing them again. But Brainstorm isn't a card that I just want in my opening hand. I don't need it for Force of Will. I'm running 22 lands, so it's not like I have to keep like 1 landers and hopefully Brainstorm into them. I'm not setting up Delvers. I'm not looking for like a AB combo piece. So like, although it's, you know, tradition to play 4 Brainstorm, for lack of a better word, I just don't feel like the deck needs Brainstorm as much as other decks. I feel like if I could, brainstorming for Thalia is so much better than just having Brainstorm there. It's a little bit like if you run Green Suns with Once Upon a Time as well as like 8 filter cards. It's nice because you can Once Upon a Time for the lands and creatures you have in your deck, or you can take those 4 Once Upon a Times out and just fill up your deck with more actual hits. like maybe a Blast Zone, maybe 3 additional Green Suns targets, which just increases the power tremendously of Green Sun Zenith, because now it's just doing all these other things. It's not just like get a Wasteland or get a Caracas from Night. It's not just eat something with Ooze. It's not just block for days with Script Ranger. It's also maybe adding in like Outland Liberator or Uro, which is really cool. So I think, like, honestly, I would love to see a version like this going forward, like just 2 Brainstorms as just like a just in case in the mid to late game, just because I'm kind of rambling here, but I kind of feel like there's a few games there where we had a Brainstorm hand, and turn 1 we did nothing, turn 2 we played a fetch, and then end of turn 2 we Brainstormed. Just because Brainstorm was there, like maybe there's a world where we're supposed to mulligan that because we want to be going turn 1 Noble, turn 2 something else, and then turn 3 go for it. But yeah, it's just tough. I feel like yeah, it's tough. I could even see something like Thalia in the sideboard for the combo matchups, moving maybe the prismatic endings to the sideboard. That gives us 6 slots. Oh, sorry, 4 for like 2 Stoneforge Mystic, and then obviously Batterskull. And then I think it's probably just Jide as the second best. Like, this isn't too bad either. Looking at something like this, having the extra shuffle effects is really nice. Being able to like turn 1 Noble, turn 1 Noble, turn 2, and then turn 1 Noble on their turn days, and then untap 2 mana Stoneforge is just as powerful as turn 2 Thalia against a lot of decks, if not more impactful right now. So that's definitely something to think about as well. Maybe there's a BANT build here where Stoneforge is good, because the benefit of Stoneforge is that Jide and Batterskull also give, you know, your mana dorks a bit of late game as well. You know, although you can't attack with the Birds of Paradise, you can with Exalted. And Noble Hierarch isn't something that your opponent might not want to deal with like a Source to Plowshares, but once you have a Jide equipped, maybe it forces them to start, you know, swordsing your mana dorks in the late game, where you then start playing your Knights and your Endurances and etc. So that's definitely pretty interesting. The sideboard. I kind of like breaking it up into removal. So I could see Blast Zone coming out if we are moving Prismatics to the side. I could see like just 1 Surgical on top of the Endurances. I think Teeg might actually get the cut here, just because it's not as relevant as it used to be. Against Doomsday, the #1 combo deck, it doesn't do anything. We aren't seeing Tess around, we aren't seeing Ant around, we aren't seeing Ruby Storm around. Against the Miracles decks, they have just so many answers to it that it's pretty tough, and a lot of the Blue X decks are just playing Caracas as well, so even if you do try to play Mother of Runes and shore that up, it's not always just game over. So although it's nice as a Green Suns target, I think right now, Oof is just the better combo target, because at least it hits Lotus Petal and LED. Chromox, Wishclaw Talisman, it still has a really good effect there, but it also is great against Death and Taxes, Stoneblade decks. So I think I'm happy to drop the Gaddock Teeg here. And that takes us down to 17. I do like the Carpets, especially for the Delver matchups, and like just a way to like power out a Batterskull. I like the Endurances, I like the Force of Vigors, the Knight. Maybe there's a world where it's actually 16, sorry, because the Oof was there. It could just be like 1 ending. I still like the parts because they answer Archon out of Reanimator and Murktide out of any Murktide decks. Prismatic Ending is nice, but post-board, I'm going to have Knight of Autumn and Force of Vigors for most things I care about that aren't creatures, so I don't think I really need the extra Prismatic. I don't mind something like this going forward, and I will definitely speak to Joe. A huge thank you again for the donation, Decklist. This is really fun. But I kind of like this, and you know, although it's weird to see just the 2 Brainstorms, I'm okay with that. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's great to have Brainstorm as like a kind of late game out, which is pretty cool. So I think, yeah, we'll stop the league here. We did go 3-2, which is quite nice. Going down to BANT twice, but yeah, we will stream this as well, and that'll probably come out this week, so that'll be cool. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, let me know. Hit the comments up. But until then, enjoy weeks ahead. Thanks again for watching. If you do like this content, of course, consider following. It is free, both on Twitch, at Dukes on Twitch, and on YouTube. All right, we'll see you next time.